And welcome to the first edition of the DGC podcast with myself, Frankie Goodman, founder of Digital Grading Company. And I'm joined by Dan, who is also a director at DGC. How are you, Dan? Good week in the hobby. How's things been going for you?
Yeah, very well. Very well. Thank you, mate. Interesting week with some of you may know about the 1-of-1 Foden deal. So been on tenterhooks, but got it over the line. No, good week, mate. Thank you very much. Yourself?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Last week was probably better than this week. I've been in some breaks this week and found it a little bit challenging. And we're going to touch upon some of the reasons why a bit later on. So that's going to look forward to talking about that. Just at the beginning, just to give a run through of the talking points that we're going to go through today. There's been an update for DGC with regards to a new offering and price structure that will be going live from Monday. And I think that's really important to bring it into line with where the hobby is at the moment. So we're going to talk about that. Also, the fact that the market's down and we are seeing, I think, like the rest of life at the moment, to be honest with you, mate, that things are a little bit slow out there. So obviously a bit of a downturn in the aftermarket, but there's some opportunities because of that. Some recent releases, so Chronicles, Obsidian and Museum. We're going to discuss those in detail, have a look at the checklists and have a look at what opportunities are there. Also about fair weather players, so last year's sort of real big prices that were sort of slapped upon some of the players early on and then have sort of really faded away now and have little value this year. A bit about rookie prospecting, because there was a fantastic blog which we posted in our Discord and we discussed that. So we're going to have a little chat through that as well. Also with players and teams splitting now in breaks, I think breaking is changed and evolved. It looks like a completely different landscape to me right now. And we probably sit on two different sides with regards to that one. So it's going to be interesting to get two differences of opinion. And then finally, just about PSA and the fact that they are coming to the UK in some sort of capacity. So we're going to talk about that, what we feel about that. Just sort of give our opinions, really. So just starting off with the sort of new offering and pricing that DGC are going to be releasing on Monday. It will be live on our website through submissions. We feel that with the way the hobby is at the moment and the aftermarket being down compared to where it was a few months ago, it's only fair that we bring our service and offering in line with that. I do think that the fact that we offered a couple of different services also was a little bit confusing. And one of the things that we picked up on was the fact that our custom label is certainly something that people seem to be driven by when they're choosing DGC for grades, for grading. So as part of that, we saw very minimal basic label orders. So we've decided to scrap basic labels altogether because there just wasn't any demand for them. Custom label now becomes standard and it will be one set pricing. So a 2-week maximum turnaround. It could be earlier, but 2-week maximum turnaround at £14.99, which, to be honest, with the amount of effort that goes into grading through DGC with regards to the online systems, the scanning, and the custom design of the label by our designer, I think it's pretty good value. So, do you want to sort of chip in there and sort of add some opinions on why we feel like we've made this decision?
Yeah, I think for me, from a business level, I'd love to see more of the slabs out there in general. And I think, coming in at a slightly lower price, we've listened to what people have said to us. We're listening to the market in general as well. And, I'd love to just see it, provide a bit of a pump of more of our slabs into the market. I think for me, it simplifies things as well. People don't have to worry about turnaround time picking, whether they want a custom label or not. One of our USPs is the custom label. We've had a lot of really strong feedback on the custom label. So we'll keep it simple, make it easy for people to decide. And, I think we've obviously seen a lot of the other grading companies now bring back their economy options as well. And I think where we are as a business right now, it just makes more sense to kind of come in line pricing wise. And, we're probably offering a more favorable option to UK people than, having to ship stuff off, wait months and pay more money, but remains to be seen. I hope it's received well.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think, simplifying the offering it just makes it easier for people to get involved with grading. And there was too many options previously, I feel. So I think that simplifying things, I think, is going to be a real plus to everybody, not just everybody else, but to us, because as offering a service, we don't have to try and think of, when an order comes in, what is it they wanted? Did they want the basic? Did they want the custom? It's a much more fluid and efficient process for us now. So we can confidently offer the 2-week turnaround time because we know exactly what that offering is that we've got. It's a base offering. We know we can cope with it as a business. We know we have scale around that as well. So we know we can scale that and be comfortable up until a point. So I think all round, it's good for us. It's good for people who are wishing to grade with DGC. So I'm really confident that, people will see good value from it. I think people are going to get a fantastic service for the value for money. And hopefully we can get more people submitting with us and all grow together, which would be a wonderful thing for grading in the UK. So moving on, we are going to talk about the downturn in the market, which I guess from people who are trying to establish a business in the market, you would feel like we would be sitting here pulling our hair out thinking, the hobby is sort of seeing a bit of a dip. There's not going to be as much demand. A few people are going to likely leave the hobby because they're going to lose interest and everything is doom and gloom. However, I am enjoying it more than ever and absolutely loving the hobby right now. I do feel like some of the people who were in it for maybe the wrong reasons are the people who are going to leave, and all of the people who are in it for the hobby are going to stick around and see some benefits from that because aftermarket downturn only means that if you're PCing a particular player, team, whoever it may be, you're going to pick up cards at a much lower value. So I've been loving picking up stuff off eBay and the aftermarket at the moment in groups, buying and selling groups. For me, I just think there's so many bargains to be had. People are not trying to get those crazy pricing that they were just a few months ago. And it almost feels like an affordable hobby again when you take that into consideration. So yeah, I'm finding it okay. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think on the sealed boxes side of things, it's still buying directly from retailers or resellers. It seems very expensive, but that's just because when you actually come to pick apart your hits and relist them, the buyers are winning. So if you're a buyer right now and you're not gambling on breaks too much, you're not gambling on sealed boxes, then I think you're a winner. So the losers here are probably the people who are in breaks, because to give you an example, last year, I was personally hitting Fodens in breaks, and out of 10 was going for about 350 quid. The out of 10 Fodens now are at about 100 quid out of the Obsidian breaks. So you think you've hit something massive, and the breakers are pricing Foden as a massive hit as well, which is, frustrating as a Foden collector. But then when you go to resell, it just doesn't match up. But for me, I think if you're smart about it and you've got a hobby head on, you pick and choose what you're looking for. You go for stuff that you're genuinely interested in. You're not just picking up anything that you hit out of a break. Then it's great. And I know you've been getting into the completing sets in binders, and so have I as well. And recently I just completed the Korea Japan 2002 set, and it's probably one of the most enjoyable thing I've done in the hobby so far. There's one thing hitting a massive hit in a break, but it's a bit like gambling. But this, it's like, I took time, I bought a hobby box of the stuff, and then I've gone away and collected all the extra additional bits that I needed, found the legends on the way, went and had to go and find a Roberto Carlos, for example, and they're not like 10 a penny on the market, and it did feel like when I was younger, going to the shop, picking up a packet of Merlin. Well, for me, probably Merlin 02, 03, and then having to just go and search and trade with your pals to get the ones you need. And I think that's what I joined the hobby for initially, and then you get caught up in everything else. But it's been a really enjoyable month, just stripping it back and, taking it back to where it should be. So been picking up some absolute steals. I've been starting to build the Obsidian base set. For me, a year ago, building an Obsidian base set would have been out of the question. Like, I don't care how much money you earn, it would have been just throwing money at black piece of cardboard. But this year you can pick stuff up for, less than £5 out of the base sets, and it's brilliant. And I am really loving it, mate.
Yeah, there's something about seeing that sea of cards when you've got them all in the binder and you've got the complete set, and you see a double page of the same design with, the different light refracting off of them. There's something about it that just fulfills me. It started with, for me, and the first set that I'd completed probably since I was a young boy, and was, like you say, was doing sticker albums, because the hobby sort of centre lost its way with regards to the fact that there are numbered cards for a reason. That's because there is a set number of cards in a set, and the idea is you collect the full set. That is what collecting and a hobby is about. That's why it's called a hobby, and so on. So, the first one for me was first edition, because Champions League first edition come out this year. The fact that you could almost complete a set through one box was brilliant, because you buy one box, you've got some really nice low numbered cards in there. There was, for me, not a bad rookie class this year. There's some that I'm really interested in, so that sort of was really a product that I sort of gravitated towards, I suppose. And it wasn't crazy expensive, although being non-chrome, it was expensive enough for effectively what are pieces of paper. But it was nice to stick that all in the binder and just see every image and every picture of every player that was in the complete set. And I really enjoyed flicking through it. It was really nice. Then when you start to do it with things like, you say, Obsidian, you do it with the Ray Waves from Chrome this year. I've got the Chrome set next to me, as people will probably be able to see down here. There's Chrome all stacked up into each numbering, and they're going to go in the binder this evening. It's just a lovely thing. It's a beautiful thing to look at, a really nice thing to look through, and it becomes a time capsule. It becomes the players from that year. It's that crop of players. It's that crop of rookies. There is something really fulfilling about it, and I would urge anybody who may be feeling like that investment side and maybe trying to profit from the hobby becoming more difficult, if you sort of, like you said, strip it back and just go back to basics with it, you can find just enjoyment elsewhere. I have been really enjoying doing it. And I've completed Aoki. So I really like to do Aoki because it was a shorter print run to some of the other sets. So I like doing that. Plus there's only 100 numbers in the set, so it's a bit easier to complete, whereas Chrome is 200, so it's a bit more of a challenge to complete that. And for some reason I decided I wanted to do the full Ray Waves, not thinking that I need 200 of them, and the fact that people have seen in a Ray Wave that what I've seen, that I just think they look fantastic. And I sent a picture to our Discord with all the couple of pages worth of Ray Waves in there, and it just looked brilliant. It just
looks really cool. It looks really cool.
So I'm really, really enjoying that. But yeah, like you say, there's definitely rewards to be had. Not so much on the gambling side of things. If you're trying to enter breaks, even just opening sealed boxes, mate, it's double hard to get your money back now, especially this year, slightly weak. I mean, if we move away from soccer, we talk a lot about soccer football because that's predominantly where we are in the UK. And probably where the most of our submissions are. However, this year's NFL was really poor in terms of quarterback rookie classes. It was just, non-existent pretty much. So it's really been, tough for profiting from having solid rookies and in products. And this year, I think probably there was more hype around last year's rookie class in football than what there is this year. So that becomes a little bit more difficult. But like you say, if you want to just pick up what you actually want to have in your PC, certainly going out there and buying single cards, there's massive bargains to be had. But on the flip side, unfortunately, there are still some people who believe that it's still 6 months ago and want the prices from 6 months ago. And you start to negotiate and you just sort of show them the recent comps of, maybe half the price of what they would have acquired the card for or seen it sold at 6 months ago. And they're still saying that that's the price they want. And fair play to
Yeah.
them. If that's what they want for their card, who am I to tell them what they should want to get for their card? That's fair enough. But what we're saying is, the times have changed. And if you actually want to find a buyer for it, people do need to start realizing that, you can't get what you could a few months ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. The selling part is painful. Just because I'm sat on a lot of cards from last year or that were purchased last year, broken last year. Then you go to the market today and you're like, where's all my money gone? and then some. If you're trying to sell on a Discord or Facebook as well, you post the card and no one will meet your asking price. It's very rare. You receive some messages, but I'm always getting trades nowadays. It seems like people are trying to offload everything via trade and serious like lowballing. And the sign of the times is that everyone seems to be lowballing. So, in my mind, that's where the prices are at and that's what people want to pay. So, for me, you either need to hold your cards until we see an upturn. I know a lot of people are sort of banking on the World Cup. I don't see it personally. I think there's more of a downturn due to people sort of going back to non-COVID hobbies and things like that. So I can't see this massive spike in the World Cup unless it's a player that has an absolute James Rodriguez of a World Cup. Then yeah, fine, you've probably hit a gold mine. But the sell market is really hard. But I think for a buyer, get out there and do it now. Like I was chatting to someone earlier, they're picking up Alan Shearer autos, Trezeguet autos, that kind of thing now, because people have just gone, all right, screw it, have it for this really super like low price. But then the buyers are going, yeah, fantastic. They're seeing something. It's maybe a legend who is always going to be a well-known name just because, Alan Shearer isn't the name he was in the 90s now. He's still going to be in the record books in 20, 30 years and people are still going to know who he is. But it's like, are you going to know who Anthony Elanga is? So I think one safe bet is trying to snipe legends, snipe your household names. That's one approach that I'm seeing people have a lot of success with, buy low, sell high.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, there was a lot of talk around when the Premier League Hall of Fame came around, and would we see a spike every time there was an inductee into the Hall of Fame? I kind of felt like, well, I don't know, we just don't operate the same way that the Americans do. And the Hall of Fame for them is a really big thing. I think if you asked maybe 100 football fans to name the people who were first inducted into the Hall of Fame Premier League, they'd guess, but they wouldn't really know. So it just doesn't carry the same weight that it does in the US. It's a big thing that if you're getting into the Hall of Fame, it's huge. I think here it still hasn't caught on enough yet. I thought sort of, Henri might blow up because I thought he was really reasonably valued, to be honest, prior to the Hall of Fame. And I thought when he went in there, maybe would see a spike. Like say, Alan Shearer, for me, he's just, I remember back to Euro 96 and just the memories that I had from there. Probably my fondest memories of football, to be perfectly honest, as a football fan. It was the golden generation for me. And Shearer was a massive, massive part of that. So for me, I gravitated back to that kind of era when I first started getting involved in the hobby again. It was Merlin 96. That was the first probably collectible soccer product or football product that I'd bought when I got back involved in the hobby again, because it was just nostalgia to me. It took me back to when I was a child. It took me back to that moment in time. And Alan Shearer was at that particular moment, probably there weren't many better strikers out there than him in the world, to be perfectly honest. So for me, I think Alan Shearer, again, massively undervalued. There would have been other players, but Giggs after his behaviour now, I think that's tarnished him, to be perfectly honest. That doesn't help matters. But, even like your Andy Cole don't go for no money. And he's just a fantastic striker. You go back to that treble winning team and how influential he was in that team, he was a force to be reckoned with. So,
you know who I think's fallen into this vein is probably Harry Kane. You know, he's the one who could break the Premier League all-time top goal scorers, but not a lot of love for Spurs. England fans are a bit Marmite with him.
Yeah.
You know, unless the Kane is a one-of-one immaculate, I'm not seeing high prices. And I feel like, you know, he's probably going to fall into that class unless a miracle happens or he goes to Man United.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? I think we're so removed from Premier League footballers these days that we find it hard to relate to them. I think like in the Alan Shearer era, the Gascoigne era, they're almost like your mates. They probably were too much like that and were drinking down the pub like they were your mate, to be honest, rather than being professional footballers. But they kind of, you could relate to them a lot more than you can now. I think with Harry Kane, I think people just find it really hard to embrace his character. I know I do. I watched that All or Nothing series with Tottenham, and when Mourinho asked him to G up the team at half time, Mourinho was almost embarrassed and was like, no, Harry, just move aside. I'll do this now, mate, because he just didn't know what to do or how to behave. He sort of just started swearing and he thought that was going to inspire the team. It was quite odd. So also he just hasn't won enough, has he? And then that might be because he's shown too much loyalty to Tottenham. I don't know. Obviously England are always the sort of, you know, the nearly team. So it's, you know, he's not won enough to stamp his authority, I don't think. So, I mean, you know, one of the players that I'm looking at the moment is Delap. I think Delap is Liam Delap, that is the Man City youngster. I think he's a very similar style player to Harry Kane. I think he's the new Kane for me. He's going to be the next Harry Kane for England. But I think he'll actually win things, and that will make all the difference. So that's kind of, you'll probably guess that's where I'm going to go with when we start talking about the rookie classes in a minute. So, but yeah, I mean, are we seeing prices of sealed product come down? Obsidian was obviously cheaper this year, RRP, than it was the previous year. So that's a positive turn, but obviously we saw prices go up, and there was just this constant, well, actually, it was a dramatic increase, to be honest. Some products went from £100 the previous year to $350 the following year when we had this bubble and spike, which was a liberty, to be perfectly honest. But, you know, we've seen that downturn, but then we're going to get onto it in a minute with a checklist, so we won't go too much into it at this point. But do you feel that the prices are starting to come back down? Do you think the manufacturers have realised that, or do you think it's just checklists dependent on where we see pricing at the moment?
I think we are seeing it come down. The most recent kind of Inception drop and Museum drop were both below last year's prices, to my knowledge. I didn't buy either year. Not that you really had any chance in and out with tops. But yeah, it's coming down. Obviously, Obsidian was absolute, like, it was astronomical prices. Like you can't pick up a box of last year's Obsidian now, even for less than £500.
I tried to buy one today because I was in a break with CY earlier on, Soccer Breakers FC. Shout out to them. But at the end of the stream, I said I was going to buy a personal of Obsidian because he said he had some left. He then said he had one box remaining because he's got 2 full cases, but he's actually going to do a break for the 2 full cases. So I'm looking forward to getting involved in that. But he said the single box, he looked at comps, he wanted $600 for that single box. And I thought that was a lot of money.
Yes, it is a lot of money. And I know you preferred last year's to this year's. The spots are still going to be coming in super expensive, but I think the way they'll price it will be a bit more friendly. If they go down your loved PYP route, you know, there'll be mad money on like Bellingham spots, Howland spots, that kind of thing. So you'll probably be able to pick up some, you know, favorably priced others spots, that kind of thing. But yeah. As you say, we can go into that later.
Yeah, well, I hope we are seeing it come down because it needs to. I think they took too long to realise that the bubble had arrived, and then really started skyrocketing the pricing. There was no gradual increases. They just went boom and just shoved the prices to the roof. And I think that was the wrong way to go about it, to be perfectly honest. I think they took too long to put the pricing up. I hope they're quicker to bring the pricing back down in line, because or otherwise it's not going to be fun for anybody purchasing any sealed product or getting involved in breaks, because it's just going to outprice everybody. So hopefully we're seeing it come down, but we shall see. Right, and we're going to get on to the recent releases. Now, I've got a few opinions on this because I've been involved in a lot of breaks with all of the products. So I've had a real good look at not just checklists. Checklists are one part of the picture. The other part is what actually comes out in the product. And I know people say, well, if there's the same amount of players in the same amount of teams with the same amount of print runs, with the same amount of parallels, then effectively, it's balanced across the whole product. However, I don't never see that. Not just this year, previous years, it always seems to be that particular teams appear more than others. And sometimes the checklists are weighted towards them, but sometimes not so much. So I'm going to go into a little bit about checklist reading in a second, because I think people miss a little bit of a trick when they go through a checklist. And one of the brilliant examples of that would be Everton and Obsidian this year, and the fact that there was a Rooney in there. So we'll talk about Obsidian first. One, because it's your favourite product. Two, because I feel like it's a real disappointment compared to last year. But also because we're talking about how to look at checklists. I mean, a lot of people saw Rooney. I think if people sort of see Everton maybe left in a break and they go on to Cardboard Connection and they Control F and they put in Everton and they see a Rooney, it's, wow, there's a Rooney auto in there for $50. I might as well buy that team because I've got a chance of a Rooney hit. However, when you actually look at the checklist and you realise there's only 5 Rooneys in the whole print run, the chances of hitting one of them is like finding a needle in a haystack. It isn't offering any value. So I think it's really important that when you read a checklist, check how many of that card are in there. The way to do that is just to check what they're numbered to and have a look, and that will tell you, because, it can give a false impression that you've got a chance of, a real big hit, when actually the reality is highly unlikely. So that's just touching upon that. Obsidian, for you, mate, how have you found it this year? What do you think of the checklist, and any sort of, tips with regards to Obsidian?
Well, tips. I'm not an expert. Tips.
You're more of an expert than you realise.
Don't spend as much money as I ended up spending. No, I sort of. It was like the release of my favourite movie, so I saved up. I didn't get into any breaks probably for the first half of the year, just because I knew Obsidian was coming, and yeah, ended up. I went with a few different breakers as well, which was pretty good. Got a picture of what other breakers do and what they're like, which was quite nice. But generally did quite well. I was, chasing Foden, of course. A few Fodens came out. Had the luckiest Grail hit with the Rooney 1 of 1. So shout out Trade. We have to biggest hit ever, the Grail. But I think getting involved with anything, we were probably looking at the checklist with a negative view, just because a lot of the wins from last year were missing from this year, and I know you agree on that. Like, where's Brazil? I feel like generally the Legends list was, virtually non-existent. Color Blast list was okay or same, that sort of thing. So was kind of a little bit disappointed there, but still got involved and ended up, being okay. I've seen a few very, very dead cases though. So couple main points, because I could talk about this for the whole evening. For me, there seems to be a dead end of a case and a good end of a case. So the top two or the bottom two boxes seem to always be the Contra and the Color Blast. And then as you go through the case, it just gets worse and worse. So some streams who don't mix up the boxes, you're watching it and you're thinking, oh no, what have I done here? And you're seeing all these just high numbers, rubbish patches, that kind of thing come out. And then all of a sudden at the end, boom, Contra, boom, Color Blast. And it's a nice little touch that they've thrown in an extra card with the Color Blast and the Contra boxes. So whether that was intentional or not, happy days. Or it's the opposite. You Contras are coming out, Color Blasts are coming out, and then it just, dies a death. You hit your hits and the final two boxes are rubbish. But my favorite thing is the floods. I really like the floods. The general design of this year's product has been really good. I do like, they've kept it obsidian, but, made it cleaner. I think the centering issues that we're seeing and the issues with corners peeling off and stuff is just ridiculous. Like a premium product, just take a bit of care with it, print it in the center. Don't, we shouldn't be opening boxes and having corners chunks out of them. Next to every one of one this year has been obviously separately printed, and they've got bunny ears. They've got chunks out of corners on the back, which is disappointing. Normally people don't look at one of ones as graders, and, they'll always usually go into a PC, but it's just disappointing to see them coming out there. Anyway, to run it back, the green floods, awesome. I hit that Vinicius Jr. It's honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And the blue floods are cool as well. So looking forward to T-Mall as well. I think I'll put a stop on it for now. Like I've had the month of June was very much Obsidian focused, putting a bit of money into breaks, but now it's more focused towards selling. I'm going to sell what I don't want. And be interesting to see what the T-Mall red floods and stuff look like, because I preferred the T-Mall to the hobby designs last year. They just looked awesome. I don't know why the red really, really popped last year. So hopefully they nail that. But in general, I think the checklist made me feel very disappointed and negative about it. But then from doing some breaks, getting some big hits, then I'm happy with it. But had I not got the big hits, I probably would have been double disappointed. So, I would say a lot of people have probably sat there feeling a bit hard done by. Didn't see any Dortmund hits past Marco Reus patches, and that was always a big spot. It's just a lot of big spots weren't hitting, and you would guarantee your Italy, guarantee a lot of Spain coming out. The box
AC Milan, it's different this year. Really strong AC Milan.
I'd say the most annoying thing about it is its predictability, because you knew going into every case, Spain's probably going to get 3 of the box hits. AC Milan's probably going to get 2 or 3 of the box hits. And then, everyone else is fighting over the rest. And then 5 times out of 10, Gundogan comes out as the Color Blast. So you just have to manage your expectations. But now you go, mate. I know it's probably a slightly different opinion from your side.
No, I'm not too much different from you, if I'm honest. I do think that not having Brazil seems like a crazy decision. Probably the most coveted, not just international football team, but football team, period. Like Brazil is, if you mention them as a football team, as a footballing nation, as a football team in general, Brazil was just Brazil. Like, they've had some of the best players of all time, played the best football of all time. They're just an incredible, incredible team. So then to remove them, I found was a bit of an odd decision. And then to see Maradona removed, Pele removed, obviously, because of Brazil, players like that, it just seemed, I don't know, I was just surprised. I was shocked, because last year you had, Pele, you had R9, you had Maradona, probably 3 arguably of the best footballers to ever grace the planet. And all of a sudden they vanish from the product. So I thought that was a little bit weird. And then to see a slightly subpar rookie list. I thought last year for me it had everything. It had every legend that you could want. It even had Beckenbauers and stuff like that. So even your top tier, there were some really nice second tier legends in there as well. And then they had every rookie you could want. And I know Haaland didn't have an auto in there. There were Haaland autos floating around at that time, but there were still Haaland cards in the product. So, that was still covered. And then you had every rookie who was spoken about was covered in that product that year. I don't think that's the same this year. I think they've missed a few of the names. I know the names are probably not as standard, if you like. Last year it was very much, Mukoku, Pedri, Camavinga. It was obvious who the big boys were. And then this year, it's a little bit more spread across the board. But I still think the checklist wasn't as full as it was last year. So that was, a little bit of insight there. And then I sort of went on to, I wasn't going to do any breaks. I wasn't going to buy any boxes. I put us as a group down to get a case so we could offer some product out into the Discord. There wasn't really much desire for Obsidian boxes, whereas last year they would have been, we got through a case in no time last year. So that for me showed that, money's a bit tighter at the moment and the world is a different place. However, I do feel like people were just a little bit off put by seeing maybe those first openings and a little bit turned off by that. And then sort of, seeing some cases that double contra, no color blast, I thought, but then
isn't it?
Vice versa, you get a double color blast, but I still think it should be set because when a product is, the thing is, they don't see it as a premium set. They see it as a mid-tier set because that's how it is priced when you take into consideration your immaculates and so on. So because it's mid-tier, I don't think they see it as that bigger deal, to be honest. But I think for most people, I would say 90% of people in the hobby, it's a premium product to them in terms of a price point. So I think they need to understand that a little bit and understand that it's a lot of money for people to buy boxes, to buy teams in breaks and whatever. And I feel like they need to, just appreciate that maybe a little bit more and add a bit more value in there when they're thinking about what they're putting into each case and making sure that, if somebody is entering a full case, we'll make sure that the right number of case hits are in the product because it's so so that's just my point on that. Other than that, mate, it's okay. I got very double lucky the other day in a break. I had 7 random teams. I had 2 random teams first, didn't get a single card, so I thought I've got to up the ante, take 7. Well, actually, let's rewind a little bit. I only bought 1 random team and hit Barcelona. And I was like, I'm excited. Gavi time. And then he goes on the missing. Gavi has hidden from me all year in all product. I've hit Barcelona in random teams of other products, in Chrome, in Chronicles, in all of the other products. Cannot get any decent Gavi hit for love nor money. But hit Barcelona, thought I was going to do okay. Got lucky on the very last card with regards to getting a Pedri. So that kind of saved the day. But like you say, it was predictable. There was kind of, the first 4 cases I think were opened, all had a Pedri patch auto in them. So predictability can be a negative thing. But if you take away your tunnel vision of maybe someone you've seen in a checklist that you desperately want to go after, and you're seeing this pattern emerging with these cases, sometimes ride off of the back of that. And, if you know that a Pedri is going to come out or you can't guarantee anything, but if you've seen it come out sort of a couple of times in a row and you think, okay, well, if Pedri's coming out every single case, then that's going to get most of my spot back, then that can only be a good thing. So I think sometimes mapping of product, people need to maybe sit and watch a little bit more. And I'd advise that for anybody really to, if you're getting involved in a new product release in a break, sit and watch the first few before you jump in and spend significant money on anything. Like you just said, break is always priced based on last year, but it's a totally different year. It's a totally different checklist. Dortmund was crazy money this year because there's Haaland autos back. However, you barely see a Dortmund card in Obsidian, but that's not just Obsidian, that's Chrome. You don't see a Dortmund card in Chrome. They haven't got any rookie class anymore worth talking about. Those Dortmund spots that were £300-400 early on have all now plummeted to 120, 130, significantly dropped because nobody wants them, because the product just don't hit. So, interesting on that one. Other than that, mate, I do think the design, it appealed to me. As we know, the sort of Americans don't tend to, I don't know, they just don't seem to like Obsidian as much across all sports. I did like the red floods. I think red floods were really nice. It's just a shame they weren't numbered. That's the beauty of the blues and greens, is that we've got numbering on them. Red was, typically in team all not numbered. So that was a bit of a shame.
Last year they were 28s.
Well, they 28. So basketball, there was no numbering across the board.
Yeah.
The red flood was just, red flood. That's what it is. No numbering on the basketball product. So I didn't get in any team all product last year for soccer/football. It was only basketball, and it had no numbering on it. So the fact that soccer did have, numbering on it, I guess makes up for it a little bit. But yeah, I'm liking the floods. I like the overall design. Like you said, definitely cleaner than last year. I think super clean product. But like you say, just a little bit of quality issues on there, which is just again, a little bit of sour taste in the mouth. Again, for them, their perspective, mid-range product, is it as important? Would they let that slip in Immaculate? Yes, they would let it slip in Immaculate as well.
Of course they would, yeah. There's no thought for the customer, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's tough. I know they've got a big job. They're printing a lot of product. It is hard. It's not easy. And it doesn't help when people are screaming at them to release product. We've seen Inception be pushed back. Well, but this is the catch-22. If people are going to scream and want the release and it's pushed back because there are production issues, or the thing is, anything can happen. A player might get, a big checklist player might get injured, have to go away for treatment, can't do a signing, whatever it may be. There's reasons why it might be pushed back. Then there's a redemption, but everyone moans that there's now a redemption. But hang on a minute, you wanted it pushed for release, but we put the redemption in so we could get it out to you on time. But now you're moaning there's a redemption. Well, redemption would have pushed it back. So what do you want? And then production issue, right, we're going to fix all the cards. Now, if, when they do finally release it, it was a super clean product with very, very little production issues, you can't catch everything. But if it was really on point, I think people would accept the product being pushed back a little bit. I think the problem is, it's likelihood it still comes out and it still has the same issues that we tend to see across the board. So, there's got to be, I don't know, there needs to be a sort of level of expectation from these people with regards to, if you're going to want to charge £400-500 for a hobby box, you've got to set some sort of standard.
There wouldn't be a grading market either if they were all perfect.
And that's right. And I think centering, plays a big part of that. And with modern day technology, should every single card be perfectly centered? Maybe.
In my mind, yeah. If it's all going through the same machine, printing the same thing, then yeah. But it adds another element to it, doesn't it? As well, if you're a hunter, or you are a big grader, then it probably adds another element to what you're trying to hit.
That would really be our worst nightmare, if all of a sudden the production quality was absolutely spot on and every single card was exactly the same quality across the board. That would give us a real problem. So there's not much that sort of worries me in the hobby. That's one thing that would give me a heart attack. So
I think there's always going to be, something to moan about. But there's positives and negatives to everything.
Yeah, so, definitely.
I just, we can pick it apart, but, it's done now. It's done now. So, there's been a lot of really good hits and clean cards and nice cards and some not so nice. So, definitely. We'll see what comes through the doors, grading wise as well. And we'll see the pop reports on, the bigger companies, because what I find is they know when a product hasn't been printed very well by Topps or Panini. So the kind of stringentness, if that's a word, of the grader, they do allow more. So it'd be interesting to see how many 10s that we get when, we oftentimes look at PSA grades and go, in what planet is this a 10? But, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I think, Chrome as well. I just never really understood why companies put borders on cards, because you're opening yourself up for centering issues from the offset. There's no need for a border to be there. I don't feel like it massively adds anything to a card, having a border around it. If you look at some of or any card that sort of, really appeals to people, I wouldn't say it always has a border attached to it. It just doesn't. So, but Chrome again had the border. I've been looking. I've probably got on my desk at the moment in terms of Chrome, I don't know, well, maybe 2,000 cards. And I think I've pulled out 3 that I think may grade 100 out of 2,000. So that's one, because we're very precise in terms of how we grade product, but also because there are a lot of print line issues and there are some edge issues, and that border, it just really always makes it really difficult to get a solid grade. So, interesting. Moving on to, let's go Chronicles next, and we'll end on Museum. Have you seen much of Chronicles? I don't imagine it's your type of product, but...
I haven't, just because the breakers that I use, or, the 1 or 2 that I use, haven't had that many cases yet. And, it's not one that I got really involved in last year. I do have Chronicles set cards in my PC, but I don't, I probably entered 1 or 2 breaks last year and wasn't overly impressed. One thing that I found that's a bit of a hack is buying the, a lot of the breakers offer a rest of slot. Yep. So they'll split the top 10 teams, and then the other 10 will be in a cheap spot, 40 quid usually. There's 3 spots in each break. Sometimes the Premier League is all 20 teams, but if you can pick up the other spot in the Serie A or what's the other one? La Liga, you've then got a 50% chance at the box hit. So those people usually go away happiest. And, people never get that spot to hit a card for their PC, or it's very rare. It's those strategic spot pickers that take the AC Milans in the Obsidian, but they get this spot because they know they're probably going to be the one who hits the 1 of 1, or they hit the box hit every time, and then they just resell it, and then you make a little bit of money. But aside from that, I can't comment too much. I've seen a few cards floating about. Looks to be.
Seen any of the Origins?
The Origins? No, I think Phil has one though, so I need to need to have a look.
Nice.
Generally, I like the variety that comes out. It's the most varied product. I would say just loads of different parallels, that kind of thing. So it is a good one, but it's just not one that I tend to get involved in. Will you be getting involved, I guess?
I've had some dabbles. I'm an absolute wally in that I highlighted Inter Milan to be the value spot at where they were priced at originally, mainly because they've got Figo autos, they've got Carlos autos, they've got Bergkamp autos, they've got some really, really big named autos in there. Klinsmann, they've got Klinsmann as well. And I said to everybody in the Discord, I think it's underpriced. I think typically it will be in that Serie A spot. If you're doing a full case, it's likely it would be a Inter Milan or Juventus, hit for those teams, for Serie A, for that league, because the other teams just don't have any big names in the checklist. So the majority of the time, it has to be an Inter Milan or Juventus Serie A hit in the case. But Juventus was priced accordingly for that, and Inter Milan wasn't. Inter Milan was sitting around $100. So $100 to potentially hit your Bergkamps, Klinsmanns, Figos. I was just like, that's me. So first 2 breaks went in on Inter Milan, and then did the rookie mistake of, and I can't believe I did it, the next 2 I flicked to Arsenal and Man United. So the first 2 Inter Milan, I did hit well, definitely hit well. lots of hits, lots of patch hits, auto hits. I hit one of the Noir Spotlights. Interesting product, that one. It's just such a shame when I saw it on the checklist. Noir Spotlight in basketball is gold on card auto, so they're a black acetate product, and then they've got the gold metallic pen, and they just look incredible. And then it comes to typical football soccer, and there's a sticker slapped across a card as usual. So that was really disappointing to see, but hit some spotlights, but didn't get any of those top 4 names: Carlos, Klinsmann, Figo, Bergkamp. Then the spots where I switched to Man United and Arsenal, the next one was Klinsmann to 10. And then the one after that was the Figo to, I can't remember what it was, to 25, something like that. And then when I stopped doing Arsenal Man United, Beckham was the next hit in that one. So I think I always used to stick to my guns, and sort of, if there's a card that I'm chasing, I would continue with that team rather than flick in between, because then when you flick, you miss out. I missed out on all angles there. It was a real pain. The Origins look nice. I did hit a Gavi 299 Origins hit, so I'm happy with that one. It's probably, well, it is the lowest numbered Gavi that I've hit. Surprised that the Origins base isn't going for much. They're going for around sort of £10, sub £10. I thought actually they would go for a little bit more than that. They do look really smart. They do look like the NFL product, but they're slightly thinner, which I actually prefer because it will be less likely to be damaged. So hopefully they'll grade a little bit better. So that was quite interesting. Disappointed by the amount of rookie tickets that come up. Buying into Gavi, I thought that I would see Gavi only spots, which we'll get onto why that really annoys me in a minute. But Gavi only spots, I thought rookie tickets had a good chance of coming up in the product. You're lucky per league to see maybe 2 or 3 per case. It's really, really low. And some of the boxes where you see just this memorabilia, i.e. a patch off of a youth shirt that couldn't get sold, and Panini have gone and bought up in bulk for next to nothing, chopped them up into little squares and shoved them into a product. For me this year, if you cannot get proper match worn or player worn patches, don't put them as the main hit in a box. I think it's wrong. I think it's totally and utterly wrong. So that's kind of wound me up with it a little bit. But other than that, it is, again, one of those predictable ones where, if you go with your head rather than your heart, you can do okay from, buying certain teams and picking up, pretty decent stuff in a break. So, but overall, would I buy products for personal ripping? No, because there's just too many completely dead boxes. Cases, you have to go. And again, you get a hit, i.e. that autograph or memorabilia card, and a numbered card per box. So often that numbered card is just trash, not a rookie.
Just or something like that.
Yeah, it's just absolutely pointless. So, but there are some really nice cracked ice in there. You see a lot of cracked ice come up in it. They're really nice. The rookie optic tickets, when you get them, really, really nice. So there are some nice chases in there. And again, it was so out of terms of pricing, Obsidian went up a little bit after release. However, Chronicles went down. So Chronicles come down in price a little bit. So, it's not an expensive product. So there is some value to be had in there, but, tough one to hit anything crazy. So,
yeah. No, fair enough. I probably won't get involved. You touched on something there that I think is a gripe for everyone in the hobby. And this is like, however contentious a podcast may be, I think we can all agree that non-associated patches there's no place for them.
No.
I'm not a patch fan in general, but...
No, but if you're going to do it, if you haven't got to put it to, just make them amazing. Get some colour in there. Get some detailing. Get something that gets, at least makes the card look nice. Why are there napkin patches in there? It's like, oh, mate, it's just, it's really difficult.
The cherry on the top, I see a guy the other day, he had a card that didn't have a patch in it, and because the back of the card was white, it looked like he had a napkin in there. It was like a Josco Guardiola, and it was just the cardboard. And his missus or something said, "There's nothing in there." So it was like Panini have gone one step further, and it's like insert your own patch, whatever you want it to look like, sort of thing. They don't even provide the patch now. It's a joke.
Yeah, no, that's no good. You can't be dealing with that. If we're talking about gripes, the one thing, because I've stayed away from breaks for a little while, but just because I've been too busy on focusing on the business and getting everything right. And, what the project has been to get DGC exactly where it needs to be and no distractions. So, however, with the new product releases, it's good for me to understand those products and get a feel for the cards and get a feel for the product when we're grading them. So, because there's so many new releases, jumped in on a few. The thing that really starts to wind me up, and it probably wouldn't have wound me up until I was so involved in grading, but for drama, breakers slapping on another card or a spacer on top of the massive hit that's about to come up and then dragging it down the card. I just sit there and I'm pulling my hair out going, why are you scratching the surface of that card up? Like, what are you doing? All to create a little bit of drama, just show the card. And I know it's all fear and I know it's all entertainment and we do end breaks to kind of have that rush feeling and everything else. And I understand that. But please don't drag something down the front surface of my card that I'm absolutely going to want to send off and get it graded because it's the big hit in the break. I can't understand the mentality of it.
Yeah. Well, I understand the mentality of it is, they're trying to have a wind up, but no, I agree. A stringent grader, that's going to cause lines. It's potentially going to cause damage. And, it's not going to probably cause damage to the naked eye, but, if my card turns up and I play with it in the light and I see all these scratches down it, then you know where that's come from. It's like it's like them using a lighter to open up the packet. Why not?
It is. It's almost as scary as that.
Like, it's not something I've noticed, and to be honest, it's a good point actually. But under a scanner, something could easily be dinged like that.
You see it time and time again. You get a real big hit come through the door, and we put it under the scanner for grading, and these drag lines all the way across it, and you just think, I know exactly what's happened there, because there is a real clear differential between a print line, a machine line, and surface scratching. It's obvious to see the difference between them, and you just know somebody has shoved something on top of that card and dragged it down to do a reveal, and you think you've just absolutely dragged the grade of that card down. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It hurts every time I see it. You feel like jumping in before they get a chance to do it and say, please don't do that if it's my hit, because you just, it sticks something on top of it and lift it off maybe. But I think even just shoving something on top of it, I'd rather you didn't. I know it's been in a pack with other cards on top of it. I get that. But it's very different when you put something that may have had dust particles on it, that may have picked up dirt, that may have picked up grit, may have picked up whatever from sitting on the side, and then you shove that on top. It's come from a non-pure environment, and then it's shoved on top of that card and then dragged across the surface. I struggle with it. And, I may be the only one because I sit here and involved in the grading process. But for me, it's common sense that you should not be dragging something down the surface of your card. So any graders out there that are listening to us, watching this, please try and do something a little bit different.
Does Sai do that at Soccer Breakers? I don't think he does he? Oh, he does it.
Many do it, mate. So many do it. Although I say that, he might not, and I've done him an injustice there, because he tends to, when
he just whips them out,
he normally mags it first.
Yeah.
So he's normally got the stack and it's up high so you can't see what the card is or whatever.
Yeah.
And he normally is lifting, and then he normally pops it into the mag, and then he does reveal, but it's all right, magging in place. So I think actually CY doesn't do that, but there are plenty that definitely do. So a little thing out there, if any graders hear that, it would be nice.
On the wrists.
Changed it up, yes. A little telling off from DGC there. And finally, museum. I think, again, similar sort of scenario. A few products have been broken. We was going to bring in a half case. I'll probably steal have the half case. However, I think the sort of desire to purchase one, even though it's only a few pennies above what the RRP was, people just have turned off to it. I think there's too many, again, similar products with napkin patches and stuff like that. Although I have seen some decent match worn in Museum. Museum seems to be a little turn in that trend, to be honest. There's been some good match worn stuff in there. But yeah, what's your thoughts been around Museum?
Museum was good last year. I know I'm talking about last year again, and so I was excited for it. And for me, it's only just a bit overpriced. I think, a 199, something like that. Yeah. Maybe 149 might be pushing it because, it's their mid to upper kind of, maybe their Obsidian, it sort of is. We've obviously seen the big one of one pulled already, which is probably the card of the year in soccer, if we're being honest, the Messi and Ronaldo auto together. But for me, haven't dabbled too much already, but I will probably. There's PYP. There's PYP Foden spots, and for someone who PCs a player who is in one of these PYP spots, then it's not breaking the bank to get one of these spots. But I would say, from what I've seen so far, it's a lot less likely to hit than in Obsidian. I don't know why the PYP spots in Obsidian seem to actually hit, but the Museum ones are just like it's just throwing your money into a hole. But it looks pretty decent. Seems to be pretty designed pretty well. It's got the border again, so we'll see what the centering's like when a few more cards come out. But people love it. It's Champions League product, so it's got all the big teams in there. I'd say it's my favorite Topps product, and looks to be pretty decent this year again. And again, another one that it's nice to see that the price has come down slightly from last year.
Yeah, no, totally agree. The only thing I'm finding weird about it is people are tending to do half cases, and I don't really understand why, especially when it's so driven by a case hit that if you've seen the first half come out and there's not the case hit, or there's been the case hit, why would you buy into the second half? I'm struggling to understand why they treat it so differently, or breakers treat it so differently to Obsidian. Obsidian's always full case. Museum should be full case, especially with how the product is set up. I think there's the base auto seem to be heavily Chelsea for whatever reason. There's a lot of Chelsea that seem to come
last year as well.
Huge amounts. Actually, it's not that unusual when they're the holders of the tournament, when this product was kind of being created. I can kind of understand it a little bit. But in terms of rookies, there's some okay stuff in there. Obviously, Haaland autos and stuff like that seem to be extinct right now. They seem to be in every checklist at the moment, but you never actually see one appear. So where they are, I don't know, but I'm yet to see one come up. I'd love someone to post one on Twitter and show me, but I keep an eye on eBay. I keep an eye on social media. I'm not seeing any crop up, so I don't know what's going on there. But I think you're right. I think, another seems to be an okay checklist. It's difficult until you see how the sort of rookie class develops. It's nice to see the Palmers and the Delaps in there because, I'm quite interested in those. So it's good.
You've got the Man U ones as well, which is nice as a Man U fan. Like, they got some players that barely even touched the first team. Yeah. And that's across the board. You like to see the real rookies. Some rookies come through and you're like, well, they've already had a season. They played in Champions League. They're already in international. Whereas, the fun of a rookie almost is the betting on them to become good, or backing them to become good. So pick your rookies, and you've seen it with a completely innocuous Darwin Núñez 2 years ago. If you'd been picked, he probably didn't have rookies. He had rookies last year, but if you'd been picking them up, right now you're laughing all the way to the bank. But
how many people sold them for tenors and 15 quids, mate?
Yeah, man.
Scary.
But that's another element where it's more fun. You're not having to put hundreds of pounds into a spot to hit your Haaland that's never comes out. Just find a bit more of a fun spot and chase a rookie. We were talking about Armando Broja, weren't we?
Yeah.
Like if you can find someone like that, the hobby's not going mad about, but could be Chelsea's number 9, younger than Darwin Núñez. Like, it's always I find that fun anyway. It might be strange, but yeah.
No, I agree. You mentioned that, the sort of the ones that sort of the uncovered gems or the ones that have not got the spotlight on them. And you sort of mentioned earlier on about the sort of rest of the league spots and breakers sort of missing a rookie gem in there. There is one in Chronicles, and that's Raspadori playing for Sassuolo. He's normally in the rest of Serie A, but, international level striker position, still young, got the same birthday as me, might be why I'm so interested in him. It's like an omen, it's like a sign. But he's definitely got something about him. He scores goals, he scores plenty of goals in Serie A as well. So, someone that I thought for 70 odd pound rest of the league, when he's in it and his rookies are in there, you've got chance of, hitting those. I thought actually that makes sense, good value. But again, I see breakers, him coming out, they're just disregarded. Like they're not even put in sleeves. They're just chucked across the desk. And it's like, hang on, there's a serious rookie there who's a striker, got massive upside potential. And you sort of just cast him. But, I get they can't pick up everything, and I understand that. But, I guess that is, again, when a new checklist comes out, normally based on the previous year, have a read through. There are some gems to be had at a lower price than what the breakers realise. So interesting. And that gets
I was going to say, it's got that lovely flip side as well, that he might be a one season wonder. Like,
yeah.
I haven't seen him, and he done well, but where's Marcus Rashford? Like,
well, that brings us perfectly onto what we're talking about next, and I'm going to group these two together because otherwise this is going to run on for a little bit too long. I'm going to talk about the fair weather players of last year. The fair weather players of last year and rookie prospecting. So the fair weather players of last year, or even yesteryear, you've just mentioned one there: Rashford, Jadon Sancho, fallen off a cliff, Gravenberch, certainly not where he once was. Camavinga, probably the one who is holding himself up maybe a little bit more than some of the others. Bellingham, certainly downturn. So all of those sort of Dortmund golden generation that sort of were, through the roof prices, we've seen that really tumble down quite drastically. So, it's quite an interesting topic point. And we saw this article that we put into our Discord, which is saying, you should never really go out and invest in rookies per se, because very few of them actually make it to the top level and shoot up in price. But like you just said, there are ones that do. Núñez's of this world, Mbappe at one point wouldn't have been that exciting. Same with Haaland. I remember CY on Soccer Breakers saying, we used to just cast him aside as if it was
Haaland in a mould shirt. You don't think anyone from Norway is going to make it, do you really?
No, you don't. And now it's starting to change with Leipzig and Salzburg, but that's probably that the opportunity's gone. I think they're the ones that maybe I avoid because, there is this bubble around those teams that any rookie who plays for them, we think we're going to get a similar outcome as some of the modern, current rookies that have sort of come from those clubs. However, the chances of another golden generation coming from them is very, very unlikely, although they have got fantastic youth development. For me, I have been a little bit all in with Delap and Palmer. I've entered a lot of breaks that Man City because I was chasing them. I could have just bought them on eBay. However, I would not have purchased the to 10 Delap if I would have purchased them off eBay, but I hit the to 10, so that was nice. I hit the to 25 of Cole Palmer. I wouldn't have gone and bought the to 25. So that's where I think if you're going to go into, if you're going into breaks to chase what you want a PC or something that you believe in and it is a rookie, the fact that Man City had, I think, was really fairly priced, because Man City never is crazy priced for whatever reason. You never see Man City the same prices as Arsenal, Man United, Barcelona. You never see it like that.
No, agreed. Even in the Foden bubble, mate.
Yeah, that's it. They were never crazy money. So, they're the team that's got all the success around him in the world, players like Delap are going to be learning from Haaland. He's going to be training with Haaland, same sort of development team around him. He's going to be feeding off of him. I really like all that class. I like McAtee. I like Delap. I like Cole Palmer. Adozie, obviously, he's made his move now. He's going to the German league, but we've seen great things from players that move from English clubs out to the German league for their development. And I'm happy for what I was putting in on a break. I was very comfortable with hitting those rookies, building up a nice little base of them with a few different variations. If I wanted to now, I could sell the 10 Delap, cover most of what I paid in Man City breaks, and still have a very, very nice collection of Man City rookies sitting there, and they could go on to be really nice cards, and I would have pretty much covered all my cost of that. So, I still think there are ways you can chase them that have a sensible mentality to it and a sensible way of trying to accumulate them. I'm not sure going on eBay when a product's just released and snapping them up at probably the most expensive price they're going to be is the answer. But I'm happy with my acquisition of them. I've got and again, I didn't even realise this, but I went from a binder earlier and I just shoved in to a binder a Liam Delap orange and gold Starball, which I didn't realise is 1 in 292 packs.
Nice.
That's rarer than quite a lot of the numbered variations I've got of him. So, Starball's interesting. Pick them up on eBay, really cheap. Variations, low numbered, short prints. I think all of those are things to look out for of those sort of rookies, and they're not crazy money. So, for me, a player has to blow up eventually. The chance of hitting them is unlikely. But if you see someone you like and you see a player that you sort of believe in, why not get a few of them and stick them in a binder and sit on it and, see how they turn out? I don't see what the big deal is with that.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to do it now with the Delaps and the Palmers before Haaland comes across into a blue shirt. Then, the spots are just going to be crackers.
Yeah, that's right.
Is what it is. I'm in the not Delap and Palmer camp, and I just think there's too much of a queue ahead of them. I get that they're learning from people who are more experienced, but I don't know. Haaland's only 21. How good of a mentor is he going to be to 20 and 19-year-olds? He'll be a good role model, but I think naturally, he's got a cannon for a left foot. Delap's not just going to be able to go and get that leg. And for me, I think, Haaland's going to be the number 9. And then, he likes to play Foden up top after that. I don't see them getting into the first team while they're still rookies. But if you get them now, and then anything can happen, Real Madrid snap up Haaland just as they're peaking, then, you've probably got the number 9 in the best team in the country. But for me, I find these players they get stuck in the queue. They don't get enough game time. They're too good to go on loan, so they sit on the bench. Then they accumulate maybe a couple of hours of first team football, bit of Carabao Cup, but they don't develop that much. They're probably better left predominantly in the under-23s to then have another season where they walk the league, they top the scoring charts and things, because it's just better for their development. So Pep's good at bringing through young players, so there's definitely that on your side at City. Other teams you'd probably avoid just because younger players are just not going to get any game time. But I don't think they're the worst shout in the world, but not for me.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think, I probably wasn't sold on Delap as much until I watched a lot of the under-23s last year because West Ham were doing so well. West Ham's my team. We were second in the division. We finished second behind City. So I had a real key interest in under-23 football last year. Watched a lot of the games, watched a lot of City. I think Delap just looked so natural. I think he scored an incredible ratio in that under-23 league over 2 seasons. I think that speaks volumes. Will he be Man City striker? Probably not. But will he sign for Arsenal, Man United, Tottenham, I still see him as the next Harry Kane. I can see him being snapped up, going to Tottenham for 20 million, getting into their team as a real, one of their top, their main striker that they build a team around, and him going on to being, an incredible player, maybe then even going back to somewhere like City when he's 26, 27.
Yeah.
So we're talking massively long-term investment here. We're talking, 6, 7, 8 years down the line before he's going to reach his potential. However, I like him enough that I want to stick him in the back of a, case holder somewhere and sit on him and wait. That for me is fine. I think too often do we see people nowadays, they hit something, it's sold. Hit something is sold. How many people would have had Mbappe's go through their hands? How many people had Haaland's go through their hands? How many people sometimes hit some stuff, put it in a case, zip it up and sit on it and let it be? And that's why binders are so good, because you put them away and you don't think about them. You are never going to hit the next Messi, the next Haaland, the next Ronaldo, the next whatever, if every time you get a card of any value, you send it straight out the door. You're never going to do it. So
imagine having a binder of Leipzig Haaland stickers a couple of years ago, or a binder of those Kylian Mbappe dual stickers, Monaco cards, that kind of thing.
I love doing it. Go back now and watch Museum. Go back now and watch Museum. Go on YouTube and put in Top's Finest from Haaland's rookie year, and watch people pull out Haaland. And there is this, it's a Haaland, but there's no this is like the case, this is amazing. This, because he wasn't. It was someone who was very much sort of up and coming. There was a little bit of hype, nothing too much. All the Premier League players are getting more like Pulisic is like, oh my God, we've got a Pulisic. Not, we've got Haaland. Well, now, compare the two prices for those two cards. They're night and day. So it's really interesting to watch back some of the breaks and some of the mentality that people had towards players back then. I'm not saying go and invest, all your funds that you've got in rookies because you might make £1 million out of them further down the line. I'm certainly not saying that. What I'm saying is every year, if you do find someone and you do find a rookie that you like, I don't see anything wrong with just accumulating a few of them, sticking them in a binder somewhere or getting them graded, sticking them in a slab holder, sticking them at the back of the wardrobe or in a frame on your desk or wherever it may be. And who knows what that card might do in the future, mate. So,
yeah. Question then. Rookie tip of the year.
Rookie tip of the year. You know me. I'm still... It's a difficult one. If I'm going to say who do I think is the long-term investment, I do think the lap. I'm always striker. I'm never midfielder. I'm always striker. Strikers are always going to command the most value unless it's a player who plays as a winger or an attacking midfielder and will develop into a striker. Because Messi wasn't originally a striker. And I guess throughout his career he wasn't. No, exactly right. So there are some players you can see evolving, but certainly never... I would never go for Camavinga. He's not a striker, never will be. He's a box-to-box midfielder. Gravenberch was never for me. I'd never have stacked Gravenberch, never. Bellingham, again, not for me. I'd never have gone with him, again, because he's never going to be that goal scorer. The hobby loves the fairy tale. They love the goal scorers. They love the people who have the action. I've never seen crazy money for midfielders in the hobby, or very, very rarely do you see crazy money for midfielders. There's a lot of occasion, but it's not often.
A lot of people obviously sometimes ask me about cards, and a lot of people ask about Pedri and Gavi right now, and I say, well, compare it to Xavi and Iniesta.
Yeah, that's right.
Prices on the top cards are not there. It's as simple as that. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. I think with
their hype.
It is hype, but you have a look at the two and think, could any of them become a forward like Messi did? And I think, and this is why I probably was swaying towards Pedri last year, because I probably got caught up in a bit of the hype. Now looking at it, I probably think Gavi's got more of a chance of the one who transitions to be a forward. So I would probably be more Gavi than I was Pedri right now. Plus Pedri's had those injuries that are a little bit of a concern. He was out a lot towards the end of last season. Them sort of injuries players struggle to come back from. Pedri's never had blistering pace. I'm not saying it's everything in football, but having a bit of pace and that turn of acceleration is important. I'm not sure Pedri's going to have that now. So for me, it's always striker. Cole Palmer is the higher sought after rookie out of the Man City group at the moment, but I would pick Delap over Palmer because Delap is a striker. That would be my choice. I'm always striker driven, and someone I think will be, unless they're a winger with blistering pace and can transition into a centre forward, I'm always attacker when any rookie class. The one that I think is probably got more upside potential sooner is Elanga, because Elanga is playing Premier League football, and I think already looks like he can play a part in the Man United team and play quite a significant part. So Elanga for me is showing probably the most promise out of a lot of the youngsters that are out there at the moment, because he's getting the most game time, and I think that's really important. So, well, it is, and it can go the other way, because if he doesn't perform very well and he's getting a lot of time, then that can turn people right off. But you know what I mean? I think if there's someone who could do it, I saw enough of a flash from Elanga to suggest that he's got something in him. Then I saw him on social media posting pictures with guns on holiday in America and whatnot, doing some gangland.
Never good for price.
Signs. I was a bit like, what's going on here? I'm not too sure about this. So, but, that's just my always advice. If you're going to pick out anyone from the rookie class, just make sure they're a goal scorer. Make sure they're scoring goals, because that it really is a big thing for the hobby. Goal scorers, strikers, always the ones that command the most money.
Yeah, the rookies last year, the rookie class with the RC on was heavily weighted towards centre mid.
Yeah.
And they're all plummeting in price. You've mentioned them all already. Foden's in that group as well. And, he plays centre forward.
Yeah.
But even goal scoring wingers that I find don't get a lot of love, like if they haven't been their household name scoring 25, 30 goals a season, like Salah prices, they're not as high. Raheem Sterling, never been Raheem Sterling will probably break appearance records, maybe even assistant like records, everything. He's won so many trophies. What more do you need to do? He was the best player at the Euros. Still no love. So I think people want that Hollywood player, the goal scorer who scores 40 goals a season, because now Lewandowski gets 40 goals a season. Messi, Ronaldo have set 40 goal seasons, 50 goal seasons. That's the bar now. Eden Hazard, best player in the Premier League for ages. You never hear about him.
Yeah,
but, he's like you have to find an absolute worldie, it seems.
Yeah.
So unless you find that worldie, probably stick to PC. I mentioned my rookie earlier. It's a bit more of a left field shout, but I think Armando Broja, hopefully doesn't go to you guys. But a striker, Lukaku's left. Who else is there up top? Havertz. I wasn't too convinced. He didn't offer much in terms of creation or goal scoring. He's got a season underneath him. He seems like a very Premier League player, very Diego Costa-esque.
Yeah,
he's younger than Nunes. He's in between Haaland and Nunes. Could be Chelsea's number 9. If for whatever reason he gets in and gets some game time at the start of the season, scores a couple goals, and gives Tuchel no reason to take him out of the team, I think we could see a spike there. He'll be playing Champions League football. He'll probably play in all the cups as well. So that's my shout. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, mate. I can take that on board, and like I say, it would tick a lot of boxes for me. Striker, strong, capable in the Premier League. I think he definitely ticks a lot of the boxes. I would be more than happy with that shout, mate, to be perfectly honest. The only thing that concerned me was his tail off towards the end of last season. He started so well, and then he did sort of fade away and struggled for goals towards the back end of the season. But playing in the Chelsea side versus playing in the Southampton side is a very, very different kettle of fish, mate. And putting him in a Chelsea side with some really good creative players around him, you could see him continue that goal scoring form, which he had very early on. So definitely not a bad shout at all there, mate. Obviously, we are talking about that prospecting, and the reason I think it came around really was because the Reibiger news. Reibiger being a Leipzig player, I think people again had that sentiment of they got a great history, or, you know, in the past couple of years that, you know, they've really focused on developing young players and bringing them through. He sort of seemed like he could be the new darling of German football, a bit like sort of Havertz used to be very early on. And he obviously went and signed for a Division 2 side, and in the sort of hobby turned their back on him. I think
come and gone in the blink of an eye.
In the blink of an eye. However,
now he's in all the products.
Yeah, he's in all the products. You know, it's an interesting one, mate. It may be one that we look back on in 5 years' time. He becomes that forgotten man, and then in 5 years' time, he goes and signs for a big club again, and everyone's scrambling, saying what was his rookie year, and they're going back to these Leipzig cards.
How old is he?
I think he's 16, mate.
Yeah, because it's one of them as well. It's like, it's so, you can't judge 16-year-olds. Like, where were all of us when we were 16? Were we capable?
17 years, mate.
Yeah,
17.
well, at the age of 17, Mukoku's in this box as well. Were we capable of playing against 25, 26-year-old peak males? No. He's probably done the right thing to go and get game time in the Bundesliga 2, whereas, you know, Mukoku might not get game time, might get game time. And then, you know, we'll see who actually develops more, the one with a ton of game time and a whole season under their belt, or the one who's, you know, been a fringe player for a bit, hasn't really got in the side. So, but I think they touched upon it in that article. It's impossible to really say about 16, 17-year-olds because, you know, who Wayne Rooney, you know, he's the last person I can think of that was a proper player at the age of 16, 17. Like, Mbappe wasn't, you know, he was probably a sub for Monaco or in the under 16s. It's just crackers to judge a player like that. So get him now.
I mean, you know, again, it's hard to judge him. I mean, we'll take a bit of an example here. So, you know, if we look at the difference between the two, so I know there's a few difference in years. So you've got Delap, who's 19, and you've got Reibiger, who is 17. So we've got 2 years different. But there wasn't a lot going for Reibiger, to be honest. And this shows that he probably was overhyped in the hobby anyway, regardless of who he played for or who he plays for now. You know, he's played one appearance for Leipzig. He hasn't scored a goal. For the team that he signed now, obviously he's yet to play yet. But Germany under 16s, 2 appearances, no goals. So, you know, it's very, very early on. Whereas if we take the Lap as an example, he's two appearances for City. But England under 16s, he played 9, scored 6. Under 17s, played 2, scored 2. Under 19s, played 4, scored 1. And then if we look at the under 23s record that he's got,
he scored the final goal in the Euro final just last week as well. He done really well. He was getting wrestled by the defender, and you know, it's another layer. You don't want to see these young players just, you know, getting beaten off the ball, or you know. It's a very, like, specific situation, but, you know.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think he scored 30 goals in 30 games over 2 seasons in the under-23s. To average a goal a game is some record at any level of football. Doesn't matter what level of football is. And like you say, one of the reasons why players don't tend to develop into, you know, a Premier League player is the physicality of the game. You know, their bodies are still maturing. They're still becoming a man at that stage. And quite often, the physicality level just, you know, they don't grow into their body as much as as their teams expected them to. And they can't cope with the physicality of the Premier League or at the top level. That's normally the biggest reason why they don't end up making it at the top.
Strikers of the Premier League often start on the wing, don't they? Like, managers just bed them in the wing. You think title decider, City versus Liverpool, who do you want up against Virgil van Dijk? Haaland, or do you want little Delap? Like, it's a non-starter if you've got a young 19-year-old against like an absolute animal like Van Dijk. Like, it's not going to happen, is it? But
and that's why Haaland has been so successful. He is built like a rock already. Do you know what I mean? And Rooney was stocky, wasn't he? He had a stocky build. He could, at 16, he was strong. And that's why they can do it at 16. You don't normally see a 16-year-old with calves the size of my thighs. That was why Rooney was able to do what he did at such a young age, because he was developed like that.
There's this guy I know, Lionel Messi. He done all right. But you play to your strengths, don't you? And if you can dribble like that, and some players probably need to notice when they need to just slightly alter their craft in the areas that they need to focus on. If you're not going to be a target man, number 9 in the under 23s, you might be the big man up top, but you might need to learn how to pull off defenders and find space in the box rather than bullying an 18-year-old centre half sort of thing. So that's where the managers and the coaches come in, I think, and bedding them in the right way against the right teams, 100%. That sort of thing, confidence, loans. So when we're talking about rookie cards, you're relying heavily on the development teams not getting injuries. I mean, if I was to pick a Barcelona rookie, I'd have Fati at one point, but very, very rough injury last year.
Very rough.
Fati's your new Messi, who's going to be that goal scoring player. He's got pace, he's got a finish on him, but that bounce back ability now from the injury. But he's one of these fair weather players who's not a centre mid from last year. No one talks about Fati now. No one's collecting him. He's not a separate spot in the product.
His Sapphire used to go for a fortune. His Sapphire card, his rookie ticket went up for crazy money, and then not crazy money, but it went up a lot for what the type of card that it is. But I remember when Sapphires were £700-800, which was really strong. Let's have a look what a Fati Sapphire is now.
I'd say, it's probably not seen the grand decline, but it will have gone down. Like, there's just no talk about him. And what I've come to find in the hobby is that players are expensive when people are talking about them, when people are hyping. That it's a bit like NFTs in that the value comes from how much the hobby loves them. You could have like the greatest shout in your head, and you could have seen something that no one else has seen, and then you pick up all these players, and then your prophecy comes true versus just following the crowd and being a sheep. Like if
Mate, I knew it had gone down. I couldn't have envisaged it had gone down this much. I remember the Sapphire rookie being £500-600. PSA 10s being crazy money. PSA 10 sold on the 30th of June for $184, and you can pick up a PSA 9 for $67. I mean, that's
buy.
Unbelievable. And maybe you're right, mate. Maybe you're right. Maybe he gets over this injury. Maybe he goes and has a huge World Cup or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden they absolutely return to where they were before. But I could never envisage they were as low as that. I'm going back to here. So I've got a PSA 10 in May of this year, $420 versus, June this year, 30th, 184.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. But, sign of the times. I think it's buyer's market right now. If you see, he's still a youngster. Don't get me wrong. Some people will be going, oh, he's had his rookie year now. Like he's on the shelf. So, it's just, but you need to see these ones and go, right, okay, actually, no, he probably is going to bounce back. I don't see anyone else who plays as well as him in the Barca team. So he will be a first 11 player for Barcelona. If he does well in the first 11, he's going to be in the first 11 for Spain in the World Cup. And then you don't know where it can go. It can go anywhere. It's just like the fun of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, April, go back another month, April, $610 for the BGS 10. I mean, it's crazy what's happened there. So, I think to summarize sort of rookie prospecting, I think the point is none of us really know. However, somebody will be sitting on somewhere the next big thing. Messi and Ronaldo, they've had their day. And new players are going to win the Ballon d'Or, mate. New players are going to have to step into their shoes. We may not see a couple of generational talents quite like those guys again. Maybe we will with Haaland and Mbappe. Maybe they'll fulfill their full potential, and they'll be the two we'll be looking at. Sitting back now. Yeah, they are.
If you look at age to return, they're ahead of the curve in terms of goals and assists. And, if we're stat padding, they are ahead of the curve.
I mean, I am absolutely watching at the moment the Top's Finest Haaland refractors, because they've come down to around £250 now. And I don't think that's expensive for what that card could be if we start to push on and Haaland does do, for what Cristiano Ronaldo has done in his career. And that will look like an absolute snip. So, there are times where opportunities are around you and you don't take them. And sometimes you need to think. So, something that
Haaland could be the touch paper for 5 to 10 years of Man City winning the Premier League and the Champions League. And he's the top goal scorer. He's that good. He is that good. And surely then his rookie prices will be absolutely mental.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So, at the end of the day, I think stick some in a binder, put them away, and you never know is the way to go. Don't invest all of your money in it if you're looking at investing or you're looking at getting a profit or whatever. But if there's someone you like, I don't see any harm in acquiring a few of them and sticking them away. All right, last couple of points, mate. We'll whiz through these. We'll speed it up because we've been on long enough. We don't want to keep people too long. But we've got player and team splitting in breaks. We'll summarise this one very quickly because at the end of the day, we're not here to break cards. We're here to grade them. However, I do think it's really important that we cover all aspects of the hobby and give our opinion on whether we think things are for the right or for a positive or whether there's things that we think are negative. For me, I'm finding it really hard with this new split of players out of teams in breaks when you used to buy Man United for $400 and you would hope to hit the Ronaldo, which was really hard to hit, Ronaldo autograph. But at least you would pick up some other cards that made it slightly less painful if you didn't hit that big hit.
Beckham.
Yeah, whatever it may be, there was other hits that you could land that you just thought, that softens the blow a little bit. However, now splitting it up to that if you want a Ronaldo, normally you have to buy him as a separate entity altogether. And the fact that you pay for Ronaldo and very rarely, for example, Chrome, we often see Messi, Mbappe and Ronaldo split out in Chrome. However, you very, very rarely see even a base card for Ronaldo, Messi or Mbappe, and you just get nothing for your money. And I've been in maybe now 25 Chrome breaks, and I've never seen a Ronaldo, Messi or Mbappe worth over £10 come out in the break. So I find it really hard. I think it's a real gambler's mentality. I wouldn't mind so much if what was £400 before is now split out so it makes it more affordable and you can go on that chase a little bit more. And it makes it easier to sort of afford that chase. But I don't see any drop in pricing around it, mate. I think the pricing's still the same.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera here. I've gone to sleep. But,
no worries. We can still hear you. That's the main thing.
Yeah. I didn't really take any notice of it until getting really involved in Obsidian a lot. And I like it as a PC chaser because I'm chasing Foden's. And Foden had 2 spots. He had an England spot and a City spot. So, as someone just looking for Foden, if you roll them both in, then you've essentially got double the chance of your one player. But what I don't like is I've seen, oftentimes, and this is particularly seen with UK breakers, is the more you split up a case, so half case, box, half a box, it seems the individual prices go up. So, someone might be making £500 on an entire case. They then split that into a half a case and they're making a £500 on both half of the cases. And then, some people are going one step further and you can see, because what they've bought the box for, or the case for, they're making £250 on each individual box. And what I'm seeing is with the more spots, the more entire value this case is being sold at as well, which is annoying as well, because if you're not savvy to it, you see the individual spots as less, because Man U others is now 30 quid rather than having the Ronaldo in there and it being 200 quid. But split out between Elanga, Ronaldo, others, Fernandez, the person is now making that entire spot £400, £450. And I've seen it so many times.
Yep.
People aren't going to call these people out.
Well, they should.
But without, it is what it is. These people have very loyal followings. So, they'll always buy into their breaks. They're seeing value on the individual slots, but the person's making more overall. So in theory, everyone's a winner, but they're not, because you're buying a Ronaldo spot for 200 quid when you could have had the entire Man United spot for like 230.
Yeah.
And you're never hitting. Like
the rookies used to save you. If you bought into a Ronaldo spot, you hit a few rookies. Say it was Ronaldo this year. Say you bought Man United. You didn't hit the Ronaldo auto, but you hit a few Elangas. You've hit a few Zidanic Bales, and then you've also hit a nice parallel with Bruno Fernandes or whatever it may be. You actually think, I haven't hit the big hit. I probably haven't made my money back. I'm probably well less than half. However, I've got something to show for it. It's not that bad. It's a huge gambler's mentality now that you pay for Ronaldo. You know you're not going to hit any Ronaldo, and you've just done your brains. I just struggle with it. I struggle to understand it. Like I said, if it made the chase cheap, if all of a sudden the Ronaldo auto spot was £150 and the rest made up what it would have been, i.e. $399, I don't mind so much. I think, do you know what? Yeah. Okay, it makes that chase, which is a tough old chase, it makes it more affordable. So, when I chased R9 in Obsidian last year, I spent $3,500 trying to get him. If that had only cost me 1,500 because it had been split out, but I was still picking up the Rivaldos and the odd bits and pieces. It's not so bad. But at the end of the day, for me, it's become a real gambler's mentality out there. I think it was already bad enough as it is. I don't think this helps. I actually think this makes it worse. And I think I don't see it as a positive thing for the hobby. Like you say, people don't have to spend their money on it if they don't want to. That's fine. However, it's such a sad thing if we get to the place where, all of these breaks are now split like this. The breakers are clearing up. Product to make your money back on it anyway is blooming difficult. Now we're making it even more difficult on you making your money back from what you buy into product in the hobby. And if your only way to enter a break is to enter this format because there's no other format available, then you're going to do it because we all like to get involved. But for me, I just think it's the wrong move. I think it's bad news. I really do. It's not good.
Breaking's very much become a business. Everyone wants to be the next site. Look, if I could be a full-time breaker, I would. I love handling cards and it's fun. But when I first joined, people were actually buying cases, breaking the case for the value that they bought it for just because it was banter, and they wanted to break the case and it was a laugh. But now it's like, how can we squeeze as much margin out of this case? People don't have to spend on it, but I think in the UK, not many people shop around. So they do feel like, there's only one or two breakers on the market, and there's good breakers as well. That's priced fairly.
Breaking's a tough job. There's no thanks sometimes as a breaker. It's a lot of effort. It's more effort than people realise. It's not just opening a few cards and enjoying yourself. There's a lot of organisation that goes into it. You've got to take care of over people's prized possessions. You've got to get it shipped out quickly. It's not an easy thing to do. Loads of people think they can be a breaker. They try it and they move away from it as quickly as they got involved because it is a major, major headache. I have absolutely no problem with breakers making a good amount of money on a break. I don't. And in the previous format, I was okay with it. Even at the prices where I thought, you're strong in it a little bit here. You're probably making a little bit more than you should from each case. I am not gutted about it. I can see where I think it's all right. However, it's got to the stage now where this whole split out with players. To me, your chances of hitting are just so few and far between. You know, we've added that value on. And I just think I think it's bad news. But that's just me, and each to their own. So, like you said, some people are PCing a certain player. They might see this as a positive. I don't know. Thank you very much, everyone. That is a marathon 2 hours for our first ever episode of the DGC podcast. We're going to need to timestamp it. We'll break it down. We'll segment it. We'll cut it, and we'll put the key points into shorter format videos for everybody to watch back. It will be shorter in future. However, our first one, we had a lot to get off our chest, and I think it's been really enjoyable doing so. So we'll be back again, hopefully as close to one a week as we can, obviously when time allows. But we'll try and be as regular and frequent as we can be. Much shorter format, probably sort of between half hour, 45 minutes, I would imagine, more regularly, and just keeping you up to date with our feelings on the hobby and any news that may come out from DGC. So, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that as well. Thank you very much for joining us. And, we'll be back next week. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll speak to you again soon.